Hey guys, it's Darwin, here today to talk about gear that I would never take on a long distance hike. So about a year ago, I made a video called Gear to Leave at Home During a Thru Hike, and it got a lot of response. Essentially, I was talking about gear that I didn't necessarily think was necessary on a thru hike. Since I put that video out, I get a ton of questions all the time, whether it's in comments or emails, and people just generally asking me if a certain piece of gear would be a good idea to take on their long distance hike. So I decided to compile a list of gear that I personally would never even consider taking with me if I was doing a thru hike or a long section hike, or maybe even a long weekend backpacking trip. So number one, I get the question all the time about solar panels. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of solar panels. I always carry with me just a rechargeable battery, and then I charge it whenever I get into towns. I've never thought having a solar panel was necessary at all on the trail, because most times when you're on the trail, you're out in the woods and you're under a canopy, so you're not getting a lot of sunlight. Now, if your plan is to go out and maybe just section hike the first 700 miles of the PCT, or the first 500 miles of the Continental Divide Trail, where you're in all desert all the time and a lot of sun, yeah, sure, it might be a pretty good idea. But if you're out here on the Appalachian Trail, forget about it. You're in what they call the green tunnel all the time, so you're never really getting enough sunlight to charge that solar panel. And if you're carrying a solar panel, chances are you're also carrying a battery pack, so then that's an extra piece of gear that you're gonna have to use with a battery pack anyways. You might as well just carry the battery pack, and then when you get into a town to resupply, say every 4 or 5 days, charge it up while you're in town or while you're staying at a hostel at night, and that is all you should ever need. So personally, I would never consider carrying a solar panel on the trail. Number two is something that I've been seeing in a lot of people's pack setups, and I get the question about all the time, and that is a lantern. Some sort of a backpacking camp lantern. Now this is one of the Lucy Lux, and Snuggles and I had this because we use it in our van. And something like one of these Lucy lanterns is great for car camping. It's great if you're just needing something to light up your camp at night or light up the inside of your van. But as far as carrying one on a long distance hike, I think it's totally unnecessary. This is not going to do anything that just a regular old headlamp can't do. A lot of people think, well, I'll take a Lucy lantern or some other type of tent lantern, so at night I can sit inside of my tent, I can turn my lantern on, and I can read a book. Again, it's nothing you can't do with just a headlamp, and the reality of it is most thru hikers think that they're gonna every night spend time reading a book inside of their tent, but what ends up happening is you get to camp at the end of your day of hiking 15 to 20 miles and you are just exhausted, so chances are all you want to do is eat and go to sleep. So carrying something like a Lucy lantern is cool, but it's probably not very efficient, and I personally would never carry one on a long distance hike. Number three is one that's become really popular lately and kind of controversial, and that is a drone. Now, before I start giving my opinions on drones, let me tell you I am a big fan of drones. I have the DJI Mavic Pro, and I love this guy. I love getting really awesome aerial photography shots from it. However, I would never carry it on a long distance hike with me for a handful of reasons. Number one, these things are expensive, so I don't want to carry something this nice and this expensive out on a trail with me just in case I was to get into some bad weather with a lot of rain, or even if my pack fell down off of a cliff or something, I don't want this thing to get crushed and all of my money go out the window. Number two is they don't have that long of a battery life, so this thing has like a 20-minute flight time, so that means I would have to only be able to fly this for 20 minutes between 4 and 5 days and then charge it when I got to town. So to me, it just doesn't seem very efficient to have this on the trail. And the third and probably biggest reason that I don't carry one of these on a long distance hike is I don't want to annoy other hikers. Drones are awesome, but they are very loud. Even ones like this, which are pretty quiet, are still really loud when you're talking about being out in the woods where it's super quiet all the time. this can definitely create a lot of noise pollution and disturb a lot of other hikers. So because I'm a big believer in leave no trace, I would never bring my drone on a long distance hike. Speaking of noise pollution and leave no trace, number 4 would be an instrument. There are a lot of hikers that play guitar or trumpet or harmonica or anything like that, and I personally am a guitarist as well, but I would never bring an instrument on the trail. Number 1, like I said, it's for the same reason. I don't want to disturb other hikers. In 2016, out on the AT, we were hiking around a guy that carried a plastic trumpet, and to be honest, it annoyed the crap out of me. It's not that I don't like hearing music every once in a while, but when at the end of the day, when I get to camp or I'm at a shelter, I don't want to hear someone else blaring their music, whether it's from a speaker, from their MP3 player, or from an instrument that they're carrying with them. I love having a guitar with me in the van whenever I'm car camping, sitting around a campfire, as long as I'm not disturbing someone else and playing a guitar, but I just wouldn't carry one on the trail with me. You know, they're heavy, they take up a lot of room, and you're spending money, $100 to $200 on something that's made of wood, and this is if we're talking about guitars and like ukuleles, and then you're hiking through super damp, rainy weather all the time. Chances are you're gonna ruin it and waste that $100 to $200 on something that you don't really need. Number 5 is not really a piece of gear, but again, I've been seeing it in a lot of hikers' pack setups for their AT through hikes or their upcoming PCT through hikes, and it's one that I thought that was kind of common knowledge to not bring, and that is deodorant. So do not bring deodorant with you because it is worthless when you're doing something like a long distance hike. Regardless of how much deodorant that you're putting on, you're hiking every day and you're pouring sweat, this stuff is not going to last long, and it's not going to stop you from being a stinky hiker. All it's doing is taking up real estate in your pack, and like I said, if it's not working, then there's really no sense in bringing it. So before you throw a stick of deodorant in your pack, just remember that you're gonna stink anyways. Embrace the stink, embrace the suck, and leave this at home. And then the 6th and final piece of gear that I would never bring on a long distance hike with me is, again, not really a piece of gear, unless you're using it to tote around your gear, but a pet. I am a dog owner and I love dogs. However, I would never ever think about bringing my dog with me on a long distance hike. I seem to get the question all the time through emails or through comments if I think that it would be a good idea to bring their pet along with them on their hike of the Appalachian Trail. And my answer is always no, for a handful of reasons. Just because you want to hike through the woods for 4 to 6 months and essentially live like a homeless person does not mean that your pet wants to. Now, I love my dog Bowie and I love taking her on day hikes, but at the end of the day, she doesn't want to sleep in a tent with me out in the middle of the woods. She doesn't want to get up the next morning and hike. She wants to lay on the couch and be a lazy dog and then get up and play whenever she wants to. So putting a dog on the trail, or a cat, for 4 to 6 months is asking a lot of an animal to keep up with you and to do the same thing that you're doing every day. So then the second thing would just be logistics. So if you're doing a through hike like the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail or even the Continental Divide Trail, there's sections of the trail that go through national parks. And there are some state parks as well. In national parks, there are no dogs or cats allowed on the trail. So if you're hiking something like the AT and you get to the Smokies, you have to figure out a place for your dog to go while you hike that entire section of the Smokies. It usually takes you about 4 or 5 days, and then pick your dog up on the other end. Then whenever you get to the Shenandoahs, same exact thing. Then whenever you get to Baxter State Park, same exact thing. So it becomes pretty complicated to figure out what to do with your pet, where to board them, where to shuttle them. So do yourself a favor, leave your pet at home. You're going to meet a lot of people out on the trail and become friends, so you don't need to have your best furry friend with you. Alright guys, so keep in mind that this is all just my opinion, and these are things that I would personally never consider bringing with me on a long distance hike. But if you find a way to utilize those things, and if it makes sense to you, by all means, try it out and see what works best for you. So what's some gear that you would never consider taking on a long distance hike? leave me something in the comment box below and let me know your thoughts. If you haven't had a chance yet, go over and check me out on Instagram. I've been posting a lot of new photos lately of some of the things that Snuggles and I have going on throughout the week, plus some pictures from some past hikes. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always guys, thanks for watching.